gamers. This is David with RPG Battles. Today we're going to review how to set up the game board to prepare for play, get your character ready for playing, and play through a sample encounter to show you how some of the advanced rules work. Before we get started on the setup, let's review some of the materials that come with the game. For this game, the player has chosen to focus on playing the Ranger character, and you can see this is the standee that is the Ranger. The base, you can see we actually have modified the base, added a heavy washer with some modeling grass to the base to give it that grassy texture for the game board. Just an extra step that we took, not necessary, but something we do to dress things up a little bit. The standee itself corresponds with the Ranger Vital Stats character sheet. The Ranger is the character he's going to be playing today, and the Vital Stats is a quick reference that the player should have handy throughout the game to look up statistics, modifiers that will be needed to play the game. Along with the character sheet is the character card, and the character card is dry erase markable so that you can fill it in. We're actually going to do that as part of the prep work for preparing to play the game. The Ranger card is the player's responsibility to fill that out. We've also got some other elements, of course, the dice in the back, the standard role-playing game dice. You've got your 20-sided die, of course, is the one that you use the most often. Looks like that. The 6-sided, the 8-sided, the 4-sided, the 10-sided, and the 12-sided all are part of RPG Battles. You should keep those handy. We have the 6 random treasure cards. Those appear throughout each encounter of the game. They're just random treasures that you can find. The silver magic short sword, potion of blur, cure moderate wounds, magic boots of striding and springing, teleporter crystal, and the caltrop explosion. So before the game, we just kind of shuffle those off to the side, put them in a random order, and then we just set those off to the side of the main gaming board for easy access. The other thing that comes with the game, of course, is the Monster Codex. That is the main stat book for the player who controls the monsters. And looks like this 16-page booklet comes over the stats of all the monsters that might be encountered in the encounters. And so we put that off to the side because we will refer to that often. As well, the player controlling the monsters has their monster stat card, and you just hand right in which each of the monsters, their hit points, and their armor class bonus, so that you can have that for easy reference. Just set that off to the side as well. And then there's the initiative tracker card, which the monsters, basically collectively, the monsters take up one row because it's a group. And then in the case of having one or more characters, you just write in the name of the character and each of the initiative modifiers, the perception modifier, and then ultimately using initiative to develop the turn order. And we'll go over how to fill that in just a minute. Set that off to the side. The other thing that comes with the game are the terrain tiles. The game comes with 8 to start with. That are these. The terrain tiles help you modify the game board to create different obstacles that monsters and the characters can navigate around to create cover or necessary components for playing the game. We've got a deciduous tree, coniferous tree, the fallen tree, of course, and each of these are double-sided, so players get to decide, which side they use. It's completely up to the player placing the game tile. We're going to go over that. The tombstone monument marker on another tree. Okay, and so we just go through these, and we're going to set those up. We're going to actually use those pretty soon, so we'll make those handy. The Getting Started guide is one of the first things that you should pay attention to because it gives you access to downloading your copy of either the quick play rules or the advanced rules. For today's video, what we're going to be using is the advanced rules set, and we'll call out those elements of the rules that we use that might not apply to the quick play rule set, just for those of you who are just getting started. Of course, you know, the quick play guide goes through how to set up the game, placing the treasure barrel, basically getting things ready for that first roll of initiative and getting started playing the game. So we're going to be going over that, how to use the character sheets and the cards to track stats and resources, and then of course your character sheet itself. So without further ado, oh, and then the last thing on the getting started guide that's pretty important to have handy is the turn flow chart. It's on the back page of the getting started quick guide, and it covers the flow of the typical player turn. And so we're going to actually have that standing up in the back here. As we mentioned, there are the quick play rules, which we'll set off to the side, and then the advanced rules. And the advanced rules come in a 4-volume set. We're going to be using the advanced rules today, but it is advisable that if you have never played a role-playing game before, you start with the quick play rules. Okay, then the last thing is the game board itself. Okay, we've got that, and then the standees are the monsters basically that you will encounter in a typical gaming session. And so we set those up off to the side of the map for quick reference, easy access. As each encounter is rolled, you'll be able to grab the standees that correspond with that encounter and get started rather quickly. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. First things first, when you have more than one player playing, we're going to be modeling what it's like to play with one player controlling the ranger character and the other player controlling the monsters that are encountered. So first things first is to decide who plays who, and if you can't agree amicably, then feel free to roll for it, and the high player chooses first which one they would like to play. In our case, we've kind of predetermined that the player is going to play the ranger. The ranger needs a name, so the player character is going to choose to name their ranger Durno. Okay, and so Durno is a dwarven ranger and has his statistics that are on the character sheet. And so on the card, you can see we need to fill in the hit points and the armor class, the initiative roll, and the perception check. So we're just going to go quickly through that. For Durno, the first square to fill in is the hit points. Hit points are located in the top right area of the stat block. He has a 40 hit points and an initiative modifier of +3. So we're just going to mark that for quick reference on the card itself. 40 hit points and that's the initiative modifier. We actually want the armor class. Okay, armor class here. You can see armor class, and the full armor class is 17 because he has a +4 for studded leather magic armor +1, a +3 dexterity bonus that gets him to 17. And if he were to ever encounter a giant, which is a monster that we don't encounter in the base version of RPG battles, then because he has a racial bonus of dodge against giants only, he could have as high as 4 more AC, so that would get him to a 21 against giants only. For now, though, the full AC is 17, and so we're actually going to mark that on the character card, 17. Okay, so far the character card's coming together. We've given him a name. It's part of role-playing. You don't just play a dwarf, a ranger. You give him a name. So Durno the Dwarven Ranger. He's got his heavy crossbow and a battle axe. Okay. Now we're also going to roll for the first encounter, so the player controlling the monsters knows what they're going to be controlling. And so that's where the random encounter matrix comes in for a 1-character party at the top, because that's what we're playing today. You can see that there are 4 encounters in a typical day of adventuring, right? And so they are arranged in one order of 1 to 6. The more difficult encounters are at the top in results 1 and 2. And in the challenging category, 3 through 6, we've got these. So in the first encounter of the day, we might be fighting an ogrekin and 2 dogs, or 2 bugbear, or 1 crenshaw and 2 dogs, 2 giant spiders, a dog and a wolf skeleton, or 4 dire rats. And then as we progress throughout the adventuring day, second, third, and fourth encounters start to narrow us down to where we start with 6 possibilities in the first 3, and in the fourth and final encounter, if you live that long, there are only 4 monsters that remain. Okay, you can only encounter 1 row in per game. So if you and we'll go over how that works. So let's just start, and the player who is going to determine which encounter they get is basically the player characters. Okay, so we're going to roll for which encounter Durno is going to get, and Durno actually rolls. The player controlling the monsters will control the monsters, but the encounter is what Durno is going to encounter. So Durno does the honors and rolls. Okay, so Durno is rolled a 2, gets 2 bugbear. That's his first encounter of the day. So what we're going to do is go over here to our standees, and we're going to grab the 2 bugbears, and we're just going to set them on the first column on the right hand side of the map, just as a placeholder for now. And then we're going to place Durno's standee on the left hand side of the map, again just a placeholder on that first column. And then we're going to get the 2 other cards that need to be filled in, and we're going to make our rolls to determine how to fill those in. Okay, and so the first thing to fill out is what are the perception checks of each of the characters and monsters. Okay, so we know that there are bugbears, and we just collectively, as part of playing the monsters, you get to roll once for the monsters and what their perception is. And so in the case of the bugbears, what we need to know is what is their perception check modifier. Okay, so we're going to turn to the monster codex, and we're going to look on here for the bugbear. Okay, and the perception check modifier is a +8 for the bugbear. So the player controlling the bugbear takes the d20 and rolls and adds 8 to that, so that's a 23. Okay, and so for the player controlling the monsters, we're gonna write in what do we got. We have bugbear 1, and we have bugbear number 2. Okay, and then to keep track of what their initiative is, or their perception check, sorry, we write in bugbear for the monsters collectively, and their perception was 23. Okay, so we write that right on the card. All right, and Durno's perception check, let's take a look at what his is. Durno's perception under the skills is a +9. Okay, this is pretty good modifier. Durno rolls and gets an 18. So 18 plus 9 is 27. And we put down Durno's perception check of 27 right on his character card. Okay, and the last thing that we need to determine for each of the characters and monsters is what is their initiative roll. Okay, so the same thing happens. Durno, we're going to look at what his initiative modifier is, and on the Ranger Vital Stats you can see his initiative modifier is +3. So Durno rolls for initiative. Whoa. And gets another 18. Okay, 18 on the die, +3 is 21. So we write that on, 21. So Durno's card is pretty much ready to go. He's done with his initiative and his perception check, and we're just going to set that off to the side. The bugbears also need to make their initiative roll, and because we need to know what their initiative modifier is, we open the monster codex, we look at the bugbear, the initiative is +1. Okay, so bugbear rolls for their initiative, he gets a 2. Okay, so 2 plus 1, that's 3 for initiative. Okay, so now the initiative tracker has the bugbear filled out. We have Durno, the dwarf, who will be playing the part of the PC party, and Durno's initiative was 21, and his perception was 27. And so, as part of the turn order, okay, we go by initiative, okay, and that's highest to lowest. So Durno got the highest initiative with 21. The bugbear has 3. So Durno is going to go first in the turn order, followed by the bugbears. So we'll just mark that. 1 and 2. Okay, so that can go off to the side, again, just for reference throughout the game as we go through our turn orders. When there's more players, you know, we can have up to 5 in RPG battles. It's helpful to have the initiative tracker, keeping track of whose turn is up and who's up next. Okay. Okay, the final thing to fill in is the monster's quick reference stat card as well. We need the hit points and the AC. Okay, and so for the bugbear's AC, we can look on the sheet and see that his AC is 17, and the hit points that he starts with is 16. So we're going to mark that down onto the sheet as well. Each one is the same. AC is 17, hit points 16, and the monster quick reference card is also complete. So we'll set that off to the side. Okay, now comes time to build map. And like I said, that's where the terrain tiles come in, the boulder pile. So for setting up the terrain tiles, what we want is for each player to alternate taking turns, and they get to pick from among the tiles that are possible to be placed. Remember, they are double-sided, so you have choices and that you can make to choose from. This one's the well, stone well, okay, that we haven't seen before, and the monument. So as far as who goes first, we go in initiative order. So that means Durno, being the player character with the highest initiative, he goes first, and he's a ranger, so he likes the woods. He's going to place the coniferous tree on the map. Remember, as far as rules placement goes, the terrain tiles have to be completely on the map, no overhanging, and they can't overlap each other. So we're going to put this right here. The next up is the monster character. So the monsters are going to place, they're going to choose from among those that are possible, but they're going to place the boulder pile right to the north and slightly offset right there. The dwarf, cutting down trees is not very nice for a ranger, so we're going to skip past that one and go to the stone well, which we're going to place off to the side. And again, you can place them anywhere on the map that you choose. And so as we alternate through the turns, each player taking their turn to place something, we're basically creating the map. And the map, with all of the choices that you can make for placement of where to put the terrain tiles, you need never play the same map more than once. There are literally thousands of combinations, and so we're going to have a final tree placed right here. Okay, so that's the map setup. Now we need to place the treasure barrel. Treasure barrel is right here. We set that aside when we were unboxing. Treasure barrel indicates where the treasure is, of course. And so it starts where X marks the spot on the center of the board, and then we randomize where it actually ends up with before the game starts. We do that by rolling 2 dice. We're going to roll the 8-sided, and we're going to roll the 6-sided. The 8-sided determines the direction in which the treasure barrel is offset from the center of the board, and then the 6-sided determines the distance that we go. So the first roll is the direction. And again, this is determined by initiative order, so the high initiative player gets to roll for the direction. And in the case of Durno, he rolls a 2. So the starting direction is always straight toward the player character side of the map, not the monsters, which would be this side, the player characters. whichever side you chose. It doesn't matter, but in this case it's the left-hand side. So a 1 is this direction. A 2 is the angle. So this is the direction in which the treasure barrel is going to be placed. And so to determine distance offset, we roll, the other player rolls, in this case it would be the monster, who rolls a 1. And so the offset is 1 from the center, and we have our starting position for the treasure determined for the game. Okay, now what you need to do is place also, since you've got your treasure barrel placed on the map, now we need to determine the starting positions for both Durno, the PC side, and the monsters, which are the bugbears. And the way we do that is by referring to the back panel of the Getting Started guide, where the turn flow chart shows what the perception check value was, and that allows an offset for where you get to place your standee on the map at the beginning of each encounter. In the case of our start here, we've got the bugbears that have a perception of 23 and Durno, which has a perception check of 27. Both of them rolled 21 or higher, so they can both place their standees anywhere within the first 12 columns of the map. Okay, so the first 12 columns means starting from either side. The monsters start from the right-hand side and go left the number of columns that they're allowed by their perception check. So in this case it was 12. That means the monsters can set up anywhere within the first 12 columns of the right-hand side of the game board. And so in that case, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They can set up anywhere on that, basically almost half the map. Okay, first 9, 10, 11, 12, so anywhere within here. You can't be on top of an obstacle, so you can't start on top of the boulder pile or in a tree or on top of the stump, but on the ground, as if you'd been walking along and suddenly noticed that something is up ahead. So let's start with in the case of placements of the standees, we go in ascending order of perception. And so the bugbears had the lowest of the perceptions. They set up first, since they had a 23. So again, the first 12 squares, we're going to have them making a move to probably try to get to that treasure before the other player can. So that's what they're going to place. And then there's Durno, which is the highest perception. He goes last, and we go last even though he had the highest perception because that gives him an advantage. He perceived that there is a treasure barrel, and he perceived that there are 2 bugbears who are within the vicinity. So he has the advantage in that he can place his standee to take into account that configuration that he's stumbled upon. Okay, so Durno, in this case, he also wants to go for the treasure barrel, but he knows that he's a one guy. And so what would be the smart thing to do here? You got 2 bugbears that are pretty close to that treasure barrel. They're going to be able to get there in their round. 2-on-1 is not the best odds for Durno, and so he knows he's got a ranged weapon. He's actually going to hang back. He's going to say, okay, fine, I'm going to abdicate my ability to get to the treasure barrel first, but instead I'm going to be setting myself up to take advantage of cover and possibly getting in 1 or 2 shots with his heavy crossbow before the bugbears can get to him. So he's going to set up right here. Okay. And so Durno has made his placement, the monsters have determined their placement, we've got our starting positions, and now it's time to begin the first encounter. And so that is where we've got the initiative order already determined. Okay, on the initiative tracker, remember we filled this out. The initiative order is right here. Bugbears rolled really low with a 3. Durno rolled really well with a 21. So he goes first, followed by the bugbears. Okay, so how does a turn flow? Okay, well that's where the turn flow chart comes in handy. This being the first round, we've done initiative, we've done the perception check, we've got the setup, but this first decision in the logic tree was your perception check 15 or higher? In the case of both of the characters, both the character, Durno, and the monsters, their perception checks were above 20. So yes, that means in the advanced rules we play the surprise round. Notice it's blue text on the turn flow chart. If you're playing the quick play version of the rules, there is no surprise round. You skip that and just go into the regular round. In this case, we're playing the advanced rules, so we are going to have a surprise round, and both the player character, Durno, as well as the bugbears are going to get to act within the surprise round. Now, what's unique about the surprise round? You can take a single move action or a standard action, but not both. Okay? So a move or a standard action. All right, well, we go in order of initiative, so that means Durno gets to go first. Okay? So Durno looks down the sights of his heavy crossbow and realizes that he has a clear shot at bugbear number 2. You can see bugbear number 2 is marked with a 2 so that you can keep them straight. And so bugbear number 2 is within his sights. He's going to attack. So how do you make an attack? Okay, well, first you announce that that's what you're going to do. So Durno says, I line up my crossbow and shoot at bugbear number 2. And he's using a ranged attack with his heavy crossbow, magic +1. So his attack bonus is 8, and he does 1d10 +1 damage. So a little tip and trick here is to roll both your attack roll and your damage dice together, just so that you don't have to, I don't know, pick up another set of dice and roll for damage if you do indeed hit. So we're going to roll both. Doesn't mean that he may hit, but let's see. So Durno's first roll is a 15 on the die. A 15 on the die plus 8 means he rolled a 23, which is an excellent roll. And he goes immediately, well, so that's an excellent roll, but now we need to check to see if that penetrates the bugbear's armor. And so we can quickly consult our monster game card, and the armor class of the bugbear is 17. So 23 is higher than 17. Durno hit the bugbear. Okay, so he does damage, and he already rolled his damage die. He got a 3 on the d10, plus he adds a 1 to that because it's a magic +1 crossbow. The damage is already factored in for the magic. It's +1. So the player controlling the monsters takes his monster tracker, and he took 4 hit points of damage on bugbear number 2. So he's going to change that to a 12 to reflect that he was shot. So bugbear number 2 has 12 hit points left. We set that off to the side. Okay, now that's the end of Durno's turn, because in the surprise round, he can only do a standard action or a move action, but not both. Okay? This is very important. That means we move on to the bugbears, who get to take their turn. Move these off to the side. Bugbear number 1 says, okay, I don't yet see that treasure barrel around the boulder pile, but what I do see is Durno, and I'm going to take my move action and try to close the distance with Durno. So I'm going to move my speed, which for the monster, for the bugbear, is your standard speed of 30 feet. Okay? So the bugbear can move 30 feet, just 6 squares, because each square is 5 feet. So we count them off, and we go 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 25, 30, because the second diagonal counts twice. Not the first diagonal, second diagonal. Okay? So that's 30 feet of movement, and the bugbear is done because this is the surprise round. You only get a move action or a standard action, but not both. Okay? The other bugbear, bugbear number 2, who took the crossbow bolt, is going to move up to the treasure barrel. 5, 10, 15. And he also is done because he did his move action. What that means is we are done with the surprise round. That is over. Okay, so now we move down, and notice the flat-footed is no longer in effect, because during the first round, which was the surprise round, Anyone who has not yet taken an action is flat-footed. Well, both sides have taken their action, and no one is flat-footed anymore. So we move on to our regular round through here, and we have a choice. Okay, so we're at the top of the turn order. Let's take a look at that. The initiative tracker, okay, says that at the top of the turn order, each round is a new round. Durno gets to go first, followed by the bugbear. So it's Durno's turn. Durno consults the flow chart and knows that he can move as part of a regular round. He can do a move action or a standard action, or he can do a full round action. Or he can ready an action, or he can delay, which means do nothing. Okay? So these are the advanced rules that we're demonstrating. So that means the full round action is available, the ready in action is available, and that's the decision that Durno has to make right now. So Durno is a smart guy. He knows that he is going to need to reduce his enemies a bit before they both gang up on him. So he's going to stay focused on bugbear number 2. Okay? But here's the thing. He shot his heavy crossbow during the surprise round. It's not loaded right now. So a heavy crossbow normally takes a full round to load. But guess what? The ranger on the vital stats sheet has a special ability. Okay? He has rapid reload for the heavy crossbow. And you can see rapid reload means that the ranger can reload his heavy crossbow as a move action. All right. So what that means is that Durno, from his position, is going to use his move action right now to reload his crossbow. And he's going to use his standard action to shoot his crossbow at bugbear number 2. That is right next to the treasure barrel. Now, here's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. The armor class of the bugbear is normally 17. But the bugbear is behind the treasure barrel. The treasure barrel provides partial cover. Partial cover means we add 2 to the AC of the defender, which is the bugbear. So 2 to 17 means the bugbear for this round, at this point, for Durno, has an AC of 19 for that attack. So that's what we're going to be measuring against. Durno has to roll better, match a 19 or better on his final result. So he rolls, and he gets a 10. And we know from Durno's vital stat sheet that his heavy crossbow has a +8 attack bonus. So, that's 10 plus 8 is 18. It looks like there are no other modifiers that can be applied to Durno's attack, so 18 is not enough to penetrate the bugbear number 2's armor class because he's benefiting from the partial cover of the treasure barrel. Okay? There's a line between any square of the ranger going to any square of the defender. If it passes through an object, that means cover applies. And in this case, the treasure barrel provides partial cover that's +2. His attack was an 18. The AC of the bugbear is a 19, and that means Durno's shot misses. Oh gosh, it goes wide, embeds itself in the tree or beyond. Okay, that ends Durno's turn. He took his move action to load his crossbow. He took his standard action to shoot his crossbow at bugbear number 2. Durno's turn is now over. Okay? One last thing that Durno needs to mark on his sheet is that he used a resource on his sheet. You'll notice that his sheet shows the number of bolts that he has in his possession. And he just shot one, so he's going to mark it off. It is no longer available to him because it probably broke somewhere on the battlefield. Okay, we're going to set that just here for easy access. That means it is now the monster's turn. And both monsters get to take a move action and a standard action. So you're right, the player controlling the monsters has 2 monsters. He gets to do that for each of them. And for this monster right here, he is going to decide to open the treasure barrel and see what's inside. So that's a standard action to reach in and grab what's inside. So what you do is you flip over the random treasure card. Okay? And that is the caltrop explosion. Oh no! The barrel explodes into a shower of caltrops. Caltrops explode from the barrel, covering 15-foot radius. All creatures within the area take 1d6 damage unless they make the reflex save DC 12 for half damage. Moving or fighting within the area suffers a caltrop attack of +0 to hit, with 1 hit point of damage, and at that point, if you're damaged by the caltrops, you move at half speed thereafter until a DC 15 heal check or magical healing because your feet are wounded. If you move at half speed through the area that is affected by the caltrops, you can avoid the caltrop attack entirely. So there's a couple things that happen. First is anybody within 15 feet take 1d6 of damage unless they make their reflex save. Okay, so let's take a look at that. We're going to put that off to the side of the map so that we see what's in play. We're going to determine the area that has been affected by the caltrop explosion, and that's a 15-foot radius. So we're going to go 5, 10, 15 is here. 5, 10, 15 is also to there. 5, 10, 15 to there, but not to there, and to there. So that's 5, 10, 15. Okay. 5, 10, 15 up to here, over to here. 5, 10, 15. 5, 10, 15 right there. Okay. 5, 10, 15 to here, 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 here. Okay, so we've got 5, 10, 15. The square that the bugbear is in is also affected by the caltrops. Okay, so anybody within this area of effect is subject to the caltrop attack from the initial explosion, and if they move through this area, then they're subject to the caltrop attack because they're potentially stepping on caltrops, metal spikes. Okay, so we've marked off the area of effect, and you can see the dry erase marker goes just straight on the map to see what happens. So let's do the damage that could be considered. First of all, anybody within the immediate vicinity of the explosion takes 1d6 damage unless they make their reflex save. So potential is, oh boy, 6 full damage. If you don't make your reflex save, the reflex save would be half. So let's take a look at what the reflex save is for the bugbear. Okay, we consult the bugbear chart in the monster codex. Reflex save is +4. We roll that separately for each one. So bugbear number 1, he rolled a 5, and his reflex save is a +4, so that's 9. And the DC, according to the difficulty check, according to the caltrop chart, was a DC 12. So bugbear number 1 just took the full damage from the caltrop explosion. Okay, so bugbear number 1 takes 6 points of damage. That reduces his hit points down to 10 immediately. Okay, 10 hit points left. Now, bugbear number 2, he's going to make his reflex saving throw. +4. He rolls a 19 on the die. +4 is 23. So he avoids the full brunt of the attack and instead only takes half damage for 3 points. Okay, so bugbear number 2, that's what we've got there, takes half damage, 3 points. That reduces his hit points now down to 9. Okay, so the bugbears have taken some hits at this point. This guy opened the caltrops, grabbed it. He did his move action. So both of the bugbears are done. We are now at the top of the next round in the turn order, and Durno gets to choose what he wants to do. So Durno is going to stay where he's at. He's going to use his move action to load his heavy crossbow, and he's going to shoot. And he knows that both of the bugbears are about equally hurt at this point, so he's going to try to take out the one that's closest to him. So he says, I take my heavy crossbow and I shoot at bugbear number 1. Durno rolls to see what his damage is. We roll both dice at the same time just to save ourselves a little time. His attack is a 6 on the die. 6 on the die plus the bugbear's armor class, which is 17. Now, does the bugbear have any partial cover? And the answer looks like yes. Would normally look like it's yes, right? Because the tombstone monument, you can draw a line from from Durno's square, from one of Durno's squares, to any square of the bugbear, and it's going to pass through the corner of that monument. But here's the thing, in the advanced rules, Durno is within 30 feet of the object that is supplying the cover, the partial cover. So the partial cover is nullified. The bugbear does not gain the benefit of that partial cover because Durno is right there, basically looking over the top of the tombstone and able to shoot over the top of it. The bugbear does not get the benefit of partial cover. Okay, so it's just a 17 is the new AC that Durno needs to roll, and he rolled a 6 on the die, plus his attack roll of plus 8 is a 14. Again, not enough to hit the bugbear. So Durno's turn is now over. He took his move action to load. He took his standard action to shoot. Bugbear's turn. This bugbear is going to move at half speed. Actually, he's right there on the edge of the affected area. Well, he's still going to move at half speed. So this counts as 2, 5, 10 to go half speed. 15, he's outside of the caltrops. 20. He's still got 10 more feet of movement left, but he just wants to get to Durno and swing and hit him. So he's going to move there. This guy is going to try to get out of the caltrop area as well. So he's going to go 5, 10, 15. That's the full extent of his movement. He can't move anymore unless he wants to suffer a caltrop attack. And he doesn't want to do that. So he's done. Now we're going to resolve combat. Combat is going to be this bugbear against Durno. Durno's AC, according to his character card, is 17. So the bugbear needs to roll a 17 or higher in order to hit. The bugbear is going to use as a weapon his Morning Star. Okay? Morning Star has a plus 5 attack with 1d8 plus 3 damage if he hits. So he's going to roll both dice at the same time. The attack roll was a 2. So he misses. No damage to Durno. And we are now at the point where this bugbear could do a ranged attack against Durno. And so that's what he's going to do. The bugbear has a ranged attack. He has a javelin. He hasn't used any other weapon, so he doesn't have anything else in his hands at this time. So his ranged attack is a plus 3 with 1d6 plus 3 if he hits. So he's going to try to hit Durno. 5, 10, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 35 feet away. Now, the range increment of the javelin is 30 feet. His target is at 35 feet, so that means he's outside the the natural range of a javelin, and that gives Durno plus 2 to his AC. Okay? So, the bugbear throws his javelin, gets an 8 on the die, and has a attack modifier of 3, so that's 11. And Durno's AC is, unfortunately, higher, and he can't hit him. So 11, even with the plus 2 makes that a 19, so nowhere near high enough to do damage. Okay, that means it is now Durno's turn. Durno is going to switch to his melee weapon, but he had his heavy crossbow in his hand, so he's going to drop his crossbow as a free action. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually mark that on the map, as that is the location of his heavy crossbow. He dropped it at his feet and drew his other weapon, which for his character, his melee weapon is a battle axe, which gets a plus 7. Pretty good. 1d8 plus 2 damage. So he draws his battle axe and he swings to attack bugbear number 1. Okay, So he rolls a 15 on the die, and he has a +7, so that's a 22. The bugbear's AC is only 17, so that's a hit. And for Durno's battle axe, damage is 1d8 plus 2. He only scores a critical threat if he rolls a natural 20. He didn't, so it's 1d8 plus 2 damage. 8-sided die. He rolled a 6 on the die, plus 2 is 8 against bugbear number 1. Bugbear number 1 has taken some damage. Bugbear number 1 previously had 10. He took 8 hit points. He's now down to 2 hit points. Okay, good job, Durno. Durno does not want to move in a way that would provoke an attack of opportunity. So he's going to take a 5-foot step right to there. Use a little bit of the monument to make it more difficult to be flanked. And so now it is the bugbear's turns. Let's go with this bugbear's movement first. He's going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, because that is the second diagonal in his move. He started here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. He can't move any further and do anything, but he's now in a better position to do his ranged attack with his javelin. So he switches to his he pulls out another javelin and attacks. Oh my God, he got a natural 20. Natural 20 on the roll means that is a critical threat. Let's just look at the bugbear's stat sheet for his weapon. Javelin scores a critical threat on a natural 20, and it's ×3. Holy cow. Okay, so he needs to roll to confirm. Rolling to confirm, he rolled a 16. Oh my God. 16 plus 3 is a 19. And Durno's AC on his sheet is a 17. That is enough to confirm the critical. That means it is ×3 damage for the javelin. ×3 damage on the javelin. That means 1d6 plus 3. So the formula, if you wanted to get technical about it, is 3d6 plus 9, right? Because we're times it by 3. So we roll 3d6 and we add the 3 times. So 1d6 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is basically 3d6 plus 9. Okay, so we're actually going to roll them separately because I've only got one 6-sided die. So the first one is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9, plus 9 is 18 hit points of damage against Durno. Ouch, that hurts. So Durno lost 18 hit points, making that 22. That was a big hit. Durno staggers under the blow as the javelin pierces his armor. Oh my. Okay. This bugbear, however, takes his 5-foot step, steps forward, and swings. Bugbear's melee attack is a Morningstar, plus 5. Swings against Durno. Gets an 11 on the die, plus 5 is 16. Durno's AC is 17. That's not enough for a hit. Durno dropped his crossbow. The bugbear is literally standing on that space. The only thing he's got to be able to do is to either flee by withdrawing or attack with his melee. And that's what he's going to do, because he knows bugbear number 1 is only down to 2 hit points. Durno could potentially take him out. So that's what he does. He swings as mightily with his battle axe. Oh, and it's kind of on that cockeyed area. So what we do when it's undetermined like that is to reroll. Okay, so that's a 12. And Durno, with his battle axe, gets a plus 7. That's a 19. The AC for the bugbear is a 17. That is enough to hit. Durno's damage with the battle axe is 1d8 plus 2. So Durno rolls his damage, gets max damage, 10 damage, and the bugbear goes from hit point of 2 down to -8. -8. So the bugbear, because he's in negative territory, negative hit points, the bugbear falls unconscious. And we actually put him on the map still because he's not dead. He's just unconscious, bleeding out on the ground before Durno because of the battle axe wound. When the monster's hit points reach a number that is negative, equivalent to the con of the creature, which is 13. So when the bugbear gets to negative 13 hit points, the bugbear is officially dead. He has experienced death. But not right now. Not yet. You never know. So this bugbear knows that his comrade has fallen. It's now up to him. His best attack is with a Morning Star instead of the javelin. So he draws his Morning Star and attacks Durno. He's going to move first to get in range. He's going to go 5, 10, 15, and he stops as he enters Durno's zone of influence adjacent to him, so he doesn't provoke an attack of opportunity, and he swings with his Morning Star. He gets a 12 on the die. 12 plus 5 is 17. Durno's AC is 17, so that is a hit. Durno is going to take damage, and the Morning Star does an 8-sided die of damage, so that's 6 plus 2 is 8 hit points of damage against Durno. Durno is now down to 14 hit points. Ouch. This is going to be a rough game for Durno because he's already lost a lot of hit points. Okay, it's up to Durno now. Durno has to take out the bugbear or face death in the first round. That would be an ignominious defeat. Durno swings his battle axe. 11 on the die plus 7 is 18. The bugbear's AC is 17. That is a hit. Durno scores a hit with his battle axe. That's an 8-sided die. He scores 4 on the die with 2 extra modifier on his damage bonus. It's a total of 6 against bugbear number 2. Bugbear number 2 had 9 hit points. He just lost 6 hit points. He's now down to 3. Okay. Durno takes a 5-foot step just to get a little bit of distance. But the bugbear can also take a 5-foot step, and he does. Swings with his Morning Star, gets a 10 on the die. His attack bonus is a 5. That's a 15. It's not enough to hit Durno, so there's no damage. Durno remains where he's at. There's no advantage to moving, so Durno is going to roll with his Morning Star. He gets a 9 on the die, plus 8 is 17, and the bugbear has taken another hit. That's 2 points of damage on the die, plus Durno's modifier for his battle axe is 2, so that's 4 damage. The bugbear's hit points is 3. He took 4 damage. He is now -8. That means he is also unconscious at -1. Now, effectively, that means Durno has won this encounter. The bugbears, even if they self-stabilized, would never gain consciousness, and Durno can just walk over and finish them off with a coup de grace. So that ends the first encounter. Durno is the victor of that encounter, and that means we can move on to the next encounter. To set up for the next encounter, what we're going to do is Durno's stat card remains as it is. He's taken quite a bit of damage. He's down to 14 hit points. That's hard for Durno. Okay, it would behoove Durno to heal himself. And right now, he doesn't have any other way than rolling to see if he can make his treat serious wounds check, which he can do once per day, only one time. So this is it. The DC is quite high at 20. So he rolls a 13 on his treat critical wounds. He can treat serious wounds. It's officially treat deadly wounds is what he's doing. Let's just take a look. So he rolled a 13 on the die. His heal skill is +9. Oh, look at that. plus 9 on a 13, that's 22. Okay, so actually, Durno was successful in treating serious wounds. Treating deadly wounds, sorry. Keep saying that. Treating deadly wounds, and so he gets 4 more hit points back. That brings him up to 18 as he heads into encounter number 2. So that puts him in a little stronger position. Durno might hope that he can get to the treasure chest next round before the other monsters do, and possibly next round he would find a potion of healing maybe, and that would be something that he would really benefit from. He has 3 more encounters to go before he finishes the game, and so we've finished encounter number 1. Encounter number 2 is the same values, right? So because he just fought the 2 bugbear, you can see that they were in the very difficult category, so I'm not surprised that Durno took the damage he did. It was a difficult encounter for one character to take on. But he can't have that encounter again. So in encounter number 2, when we roll, let's just see what he will encounter. 6. Okay, so he's going to encounter 4 dire rats next encounter. And basically we go through the whole setup just again. So to recap, what we would be doing right now is we would be erasing the caltrops off of the map markers, and we would go through the process of setting up the terrain according to the random placements or the placements that the players decide. And as we do that, we've got new monsters. That would be the 4 dire rats. They get placed as placeholders in the first column. Okay, and so that wraps up the first encounter, and as the players continue to make progress on setting up the game board, we remove the terrain tiles, clean them up for the next placement, and then we're ready to go for encounter number 2. I hope that helps clarify some of the rules, how the advanced rules apply to character movement, combat, ranged attacks, the effect of partial cover, and more. We're looking forward to what you all encounter with the game as you play. Thank you much for watching.